Let's learn how to say time in Spanish. Spanish has multiple words for time. One represents the passage of time. Some students like to picture this concept as an ancient temple that's still standing. It's been standing for thousands of years. So think of this again as something that's long-lasting or eternal, and this word is tiempo. On the other hand, the other word for time can be thought of as a very fragile vase that breaks every time someone walks by, and you have to replace it every time. This word is vez. Note that tiempo, the long-standing one, is masculine, and vez, the fragile, temporary one, is feminine. So we have el tiempo and la vez. The difference between vez and tiempo, besides the fact that vez is feminine and tiempo is masculine, is that vez is used for events or instances of something happening. But el tiempo is used for the passage of time, or referring to amounts of time. You can almost think of time as a substance that you can measure or use more or less of. So to say this time or that time, you would use esta vez or esa vez, talking about singular countable instances. But to say lots of time, you would say lots of tiempo. So, for example, if we were talking about which time you were at my house, we might say this time or that time, and we would always use vez. It's almost like mentioning which time you broke my vase. That's an event. But if I were to say it's been a long time, we're talking about the amount of the passage of time. So that's tiempo. Let's do a very short mini quiz on these words. How much time do you want to spend here? How much tiempo do you want to spend aquí? Not this time. No esta vez. I want to be there for a long time. I want estar there por a long tiempo. Next, let's learn the word for day, which is día. Now, this is unusual, but this is a masculine noun, even though it ends with the letter A. So it takes masculine articles and pronouns. For example, el día and un día. This is actually fairly often the case. I mean, a lot of feminine nouns end with A, and a lot of masculine nouns end with O, but the most commonly used masculine noun in Spanish, the word día, ends with A. Here's a sentence example. This day is going to be good. Este día va a ser good. By the way, a fun thing that you can do with the word día is that you can say this day or that day, and then just throw that onto the beginning or end of a sentence. Normally, you can't do that with nouns, but you can with some time nouns. Check out this sentence. We were at that place. Estábamos en ese lugar. We can throw this day or that day on the end to talk about when we were at that place. Estábamos en ese lugar ese día. Estábamos en ese lugar este día. Or even, ese día estábamos en ese lugar. Now, of course, normally, in order to take a sentence and then add a noun to it, you have to use a preposition first. For example, if we start with vamos a estar en ese lugar, we can't simply throw mis amigos on the end, because we were at that place, my friends, makes no sense. But we can add mis amigos if we use a preposition. Vamos a estar en ese lugar con mis amigos. So this idea of using that day at the end of a sentence is a bit unusual, but it can be done both in Spanish and in English. Vamos a estar en ese lugar ese día. But here's another thing you can do. Check out this English sentence. We're going to be at that place by that day. We've added the word by here, so we've changed the meaning. Instead of saying that we're going to be at that place on a certain day, we're saying we're going to be there on or before that day. Here's how you do the same thing in Spanish. Vamos a estar en ese lugar para ese día. So the word para can actually be translated as by in this very specific situation. Normally, we've learned that by tends to translate as por, but this is an exception. Try it yourself with this next example. You want to go to the place by that day? ¿Quieres ir al lugar para ese día?